So, hello and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom, and I'm here with Paul, who you may have recognised his voice from time to time, and you'll see him for the first time here. But we're very pleased to be joined by James Pax. Of course, you'll know him, most of you will know him through his work through Big Trouble in Little China, but he has a good resume of TV and film credits that we'll talk about, and then some exciting new projects that are coming up. So, welcome, James.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Paul and Leo.
Welcome, James.
And there is Paul's on-screen debut as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us, James. And I know it's an 8-hour time difference from here in the UK to obviously China. So, you know, I'm aware that obviously it's a little later there. Have you been safe with the whole the 2020 situations? You've been keeping well?
Yes. Well, you know, it's really 2020 is a bad year for everybody, including myself here in China. Although China has been the luckiest one, we recovered faster than anywhere else in the world.
Actually, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, you've done really well there, actually. We're in England. We're kind of going through a bit of a resurgence through it. There's been like a new strain here, so we're currently in lockdown. So you know, this is a pleasant way to spend lockdown, chatting films like we will be in just a second.
It is definitely.
Fantastic. So obviously, as we said at the top, most people will know you from Big Trouble in Little China, which is kind of, I think, one of your recognizable names. And I would say, arguably, probably one of the most recognizable characters, even though obviously it didn't have a huge amount of screen time compared to like Kurt Russell, but certainly one of the most memorable characters. And can you just tell us how you first got involved in Big Trouble in Little China?
Well, maybe I should start with how my acting career started. Actually, it started, I cannot remember which year, but it started in New York. And my first movie role was actually Year of the Dragon. I don't know if you still recall that wonderful film. Was directed by Michael Cimino.
Yeah,
he's an Oscar-winning director, and I played the assassin. You know, the Chinese gang that killed what's his name, Mickey Rourke's.
Yeah,
Mickey Rourke's character's wife, actually, in the bathroom. That was my native claim fame. Very small character. I appeared in a flash, and then I was out. I was mostly among the gangs. But the interesting on that was Michael picked me because I was not a real gang. I was a beginner actor. And if you have seen the film, everyone that played as the gangs were the gang members from Chinatown in New York. And yet I was the only one that played a gang and was not a gang member. That was interesting thing. And one other interesting factor was that I was very lucky because, you know, I started out as a very, you know, nobody. I did a couple of stage play in New York and also in Seattle, and I did a wonderful stage play called Railroad and I, 2-character play, and we were supposed to do 1 month. It extended into 3 months with great reviews. And then I went back to New York with all the reviews, and then I started to look for agent. Happened that one of the most famous agent in New York also represented, you recall, John Long, who played the Last Emperor and also the Year of the Dragon, where we met. His agent picked me up. He said, "You are like the new John Long. You are younger, and you actually play the same role that John played 10 years before you." He was also in the Railroad and I, and he was the director actually that originated that play. And I said, "Well, thank you. You know, I'm very appreciative." And he represented, besides with John, Kevin Kline, you name it, the most famous stage actor in New York. He represented them all.
Mm.
So after I did the Year of the Dragon, I was offered with two parts on the same week. One was General Hospital, if you remember, 25, 30 years ago. Famous. They said they want to offer you a 2-year contract and you are a series regular. And you're going to be the maid of claim as being the first Asian male actor to be in a daytime soap opera. I said, wow, that's amazing. And then soon after, we got the offer from Big Trouble. That's how I got the role, actually. And to tell you a little more about how I got the role, I was called by the agent. He said, well, there's this big movie coming out of Los Angeles. The director, John Carpenter, want to see you himself because I gave him a big, run up on you, and he really wanted to meet you. I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, what kind of part? They said, oh, there's several parts in it, but they want to meet you first and see what you can do in terms of Kung Fu, because this is going to be the first ever Hollywood-made $40 million action movie on Chinese subject. I said, that's amazing. That's something I wanted to be in. So immediately I called out my partner. I was a Kung Fu expert, and I had a partner who was from China, and he's a wushu artist, and he was teaching. He just arrived in Los Angeles, didn't speak much English, so he had a little school. He was teaching a lot of kids, a lot of youngsters how to do wushu, with weapons and all of that. And I was also studying with him with the Chinese weapons because I was already studying karate, Aikido, and all of that stuff. But I didn't know much about wushu, so I took some lessons from him. And then I said, you know what? There's this wonderful part that I think you should also audition, because you never know, you might just get the part. So I said, we should choreograph an incredible fight scene because this movie is all about fighting. You and I should choreograph an incredible fight scene to impress them. I've always know how to impress people when it comes to action.
Sure.
So we practiced for like a whole week, and then we worked out almost a 10-minute scene, from hand-to-hand combat to, broadswords against, all kinds of things, and spears and everything. So we went in, we slayed our names, and the director said, okay, do the thing. And we do our thing immediately. The director and everybody sitting on the casting chairs was like, amazing, this is the best fight scene we've seen so far.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Soon after, I got the offer, of course, but I'm sorry to say that he didn't get the offer, maybe because he didn't speak much English. But that's how I got into it, actually. Yes. It was,
so what did they? Obviously, you played Lightning, which is one of the 3 storms. Obviously, the kind of like the brute force of obviously the Lo Pan character played by James Wong there. So did they give you any idea about the character of Lightning's kind of backstory? What did they actually tell you he was going to be? Do you remember anything, what they kind of, how they described it?
Yeah, the director didn't tell me what role I was going to play because I was offered the role after the audition. And then they said, you're going to get the part of Lightning. I said, Lightning? Okay, well, whatever it is, send me the script. So I read it. I said, hey, this character is pretty interesting. But you know what? I probably only got 3 lines in it. 3 lines. I said, what am I going to do with 3 lines? Then I read it. Oh, it's action. Oh, okay. Lightning, shooting up lightnings. Okay, well, that's interesting. But 3 lines, come on, I can do better than that. I was not satisfied. I tell you, when I first gotten the offer, I was not satisfied. I said, I should be playing the lead, which was Kurt Russell's sidekick.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
Yeah. He had a lot more line and he was a lead. I had a big heart. I said, I only want the best. Otherwise, I don't do it. But anyway, the director said, my agent said, you got to take this because this is going to open you up to Hollywood. You are now only a New York stage actor and you got an offer from General Hospital, which is good, but you need to be in Hollywood. And you want to be in Hollywood, you got to do this film. I said, fine, I do it. And indeed, after I did the film, my whole career opens up. Offers just keep coming in and things like that. So I don't regret it. But the fact is, I was definitely not happy when I got the role.
Sure.
I said, I should have done that, bigger role. And soon after, the movie did okay. It was $40 million budget. I think the box office was around only 40 million, which they didn't do very well domestically, but I think they did very well internationally. And then it became a cult film.
Yeah.
So after I only realized that my character actually was more memorable than Dennis Dunn's character, so I said, okay, that's fine with me. So that's basically how it goes.
It's very true. There's a Blu-ray distribution company here in the UK called Arrow, and they actually put out a relatively recent version of Big Trouble in Little China, and your character is the main picture on the front. And I think when people think of Big Trouble in Little China, I think your character is obviously one of the kind of like the most memorable parts of it. In fact, I actually did. I had a look on YouTube and stuff, and there's lots of people have actually kind of edited your clips together and stuff like that. And and a lot of people, if you read the comments on there, a lot of people have expressed a lot of kind of admiration and kind of they really enjoyed obviously those scenes, despite obviously somewhat limited dialogue. So a couple of things I read some of the comments, and I kind of want to kind of like bring some of the kind of things that they said to you. Some of them are just a little bit of fun. A couple of the comments that I did see that I thought was quite funny. A lot of people were very very jealous of your hair. They said that guy's got amazing hair.
I did. I had a lot of hair.
A very cool looking dude. One of the things I was curious about, because obviously your character is able to control the lightning, and you do a lot of like throwing around the hands and things to obviously kind of, I guess, charge up the power and stuff. Now, I was curious, when in those scenes, how was it sort of said to you? Like, did the director say just like throw around your hands, or did they kind of want you to do it in a specific way, sort of thing?
Right. Well, this was at least 35 years ago. Back then, there was no computer graphic and all of that. So the fact of the matter is, they spend a lot of money on the sets. Everything you see there, every Buddha you see was built, hand built, most likely, and hand painted. That's why it cost so much money. 40 million back then, it's at least $1 billion today. That's how big the production was. But for every scene, the director would tell me, okay, James, here's what we're gonna do. Okay, you think about something that it's gonna make your character fly. And I'm always a guy, up to creativity. So they said, you're not gonna show out lightning right now, but we're gonna draw it in. But you gotta make it look like you are really gathering the power, and you're gonna really shoot out the lightning. So you need to feel it when you play it. I said, of course, I feel it when I play it, and that's what I'll do. So in every movement I did, it was designed, even with the way I yell it, ha, 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 so that it makes it look real. And then after they draw in the lightning, they said everything was hand painted. I said, amazing. It looks so incredible. Then I was looking through some of the footage again just the other day. When he stepped into, the beginning was impressive. The three guys, come down to the ground, shock everybody, and then they do a flip in the air, which again, that was all for real. There was no stuntman. I had this wire on me, and then I had to learn how to squeeze my hand so that I can spin on top of this wiring, so that it all looked real. So we did it all by ourselves, actually, and how to land and all of that. But what's really impressed me more was the scene after that. I was chasing after Caruso and everybody into the tunnel. Remember, there was a scene into the tunnel. And then I was standing in this big square by myself. It was a long shot. And then I was doing my hand movement into 4 different corners. Well, the director said, now you're in this room, you're going to show your power. I'm not so sure how you can show your power, but you tell me how you want to show your power. I said, okay, we got 4 corners. Here, John, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot it into the 4 corners, left and right, and to the back, and to the back, okay, and then and then he said, you're gonna walk forward because soon after there's gonna be a big fireball dropping down behind you. So make sure you walk forward. I said, okay, I will. So basically, that's how I communicate with John, and it looked great.
Fantastic.
You know, yeah.
The scene you're talking about is actually because you were the final bad guy in the movie, and one of the comments I saw on these YouTube comments is like they were saying like because obviously the scene before in the kind of the big fight when you kind of get knocked down but then you escape, and one of the theories that I saw on the YouTube videos was that they had forgot to kind of like that you'd forgotten about your character because obviously you kind of had escaped in like the big fight scene before, and then they had to kind of like, well, this is a theory that I had read, that they had to sort of, they realised your character was still alive and had to have that kind of that final confrontation. But you actually, of all of the bad guys, you were the obviously the last one, the final bad guy, which is quite fun.
Yeah,
I think that's again, it's one of my favourite scenes, and I think one of the best scenes that people do remember. I mean, one of the things I've heard as well, and I don't know if you've heard this, is that they were talking about doing a remake of Big Trouble in Little China with The Rock. I don't know if you've.
Yes, I heard it was all over the internet too, and I wish him a lot of luck. I think this movie is gonna, whoever makes it or whoever stars in it is gonna be another big hit. I think the movie came out. I really think movie came out very early. It definitely was groundbreaking, and I think it came out in the U.S. at a very how should I say, tricky time, because I recall it came out at the same week as another big movie. I can't remember. It's about Ghostbuster, I think, something like that. I think it was Ghostbuster. And that really affected our movie. And secondly, somehow 20th Century Fox didn't really chase up on the advertising budget.
Yeah,
They only had the first budget, and then they crammed their hand. They didn't follow up with it. I think if they follow up with it, it probably would have done a lot better. Because after that, I think Ghostbuster did a lot better than our film. But it did not become, a classic, and we did.
It has become a classic, and we've, as you may or may not know, the Ed Boon, who was one of the creators of one of the biggest video games in the world, the Mortal Kombat series, actually cites Big Trouble in Little China as one of the main influences for the Raiden character, which was directly influenced by your character Lightning, but also Shang Tsung, who was influenced by the Lo Pan character. So that's had a huge cultural impact, even today. And obviously, since then, the film has really garnered cult status. And I was asked, someone asked me to ask you a question. So Jambo Shango, who's another YouTuber, asked me to ask you, how do you feel about the movie becoming like a cult film after all this time?
I never thought it would, honestly. I was only thinking that movie was definitely groundbreaking for me as an actor, which I really appreciated, my agent and John to pick me. But I never thought it would have become so big. And secondly, because in the US, it didn't do as well as everybody expected. But it was really a pleasant surprise. And after 30 years after, among another 60 to 80 movies I've done around the world, I feel very proud to be in that movie, actually. And I don't mind playing that character with 3 lines in it. Well, it was an amazing film.
It was
groundbreaking
it's one of my
everything.
Favorites, absolutely.
John Carpenter is a genius. You know why? Because I recall at that time, the entire world was paying still respect to Bruce Lee's incredibility and his sudden death.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then it comes, what's this white guy's name? I cannot remember. Can do a split on 2 chairs.
Oh, Van Damme.
Van Damme. Then it came Van Damme, and that's it. Van Damme was the biggest thing. Van Damme is definitely a very handsome man, you know, wonderful dancer and all of that. But comparing to Bruce, I think there's still a gap in terms of real kung fu. I'm a man of kung fu, so I do adore Bruce. So Big Trouble. Think about that. A Chinese story, a fantasy story in San Francisco underground, written by a white director who probably hasn't even been to China or Hong Kong, can come up with an original story and character like this. It just blew my mind, even today.
That's fantastic.
You will not be able to find someone to write a character and a story like that. It's so original, and yet it's funny, you know, and it make it very seriously, and it's funny. And that's what, and everything you see is not, you know, computerized. Everything is real sets. That's so amazing about it.
Fantastic. Now, that leads me into a segue talking about Bruce Lee, because I know Paul has got some questions he's been dying to ask you as well. So I'll hand over to Paul, right, who has got some questions of his own.
I have great knowledge about Bruce. I know everything about
Fantastic. Did you ever get to meet Bruce's son, Brandon?
No. Although he was in Hollywood, but you know, we were on a different route.
You seem to grew up in the cinema the same sort of time and same sort of age, and I just thought it'd be fantastic with Big Trouble in Little China, with the connection with Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, who, as I'm sure you know, they made a lot of films before Big Trouble, so they knew each other very well. Did you, because you've got you also did a lot of the Hong Kong productions and Japanese films, they used a lot, particularly in the early Shaw Brothers films, wire work. I think you kind of touched on it there with Big Trouble in Little China. Did they use the wire work, or?
They did, but the wire work was done by a US team. It wasn't done by a Hong Kong team then, because Hong Kong team back then was not yet into Hollywood. So all the wire work was designed by John's own team of people.
Okay.
With some help of the Chinese Kung Fu team. There is a Chinese Kung Fu team, but they were not in charge of the wire. They were only in charge of the groundwork, you know, organizing all the extras, how to do the Kung Fu and all of that stuff, which they did very well, of course.
Brilliant. Because I think Yuen Wu-ping, he was fantastic with the choreography fighting. And he, again, later was adopted by the Americans and did a lot of their production, didn't he?
Yes, Yuen definitely. I'm not sure if Yuen was there. I cannot recall.
Yes,
he was there. But you know what? He did not choreograph my fight. I did everything on my own.
Did that stuff, and it was absolutely fantastic.
I did everything. Well, my character was my creation. Yuen has nothing to do with it. But although I do have great respect for what he has done, yes.
Sure.
Yuen definitely was one of the best stunt choreographer from Hong Kong. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to have seen you alongside Brandon Lee. I was just thinking, with the connection with Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell made a film called Tango and Cash.
Really? Yes.
Sylvester Stallone. I would have loved to have seen like a sort of Hong Kong version of Tango and Cash with you and Brandon Lee, and together you could have handed out the Kung Fu bar, which is one of the phrases food bar from film. It would have been fantastic. I'd love to have seen that.
Well, since now you mentioned, I'll definitely go back and watch that movie. Maybe I can write a Chinese version. I can direct it myself.
That would be absolutely terrific.
No, Brandon, I feel sorry for him. You know, I mean, I know very little of him. I never really met his family, but I do have a tremendous respect for Bruce.
Absolutely.
As a man who opened up the entire world to respect Chinese as Chinese. As you know, Chinese, they will remember Chinese as either back then was a communist, China, Mao Zedong, or Hong Kong, and that's it, or Taiwan. And but there wasn't anybody else. I remember when I was, you know, in high school in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey, Hightstown. I grew up in New York, and I opened up Life magazine. You know, every year they have Life magazine. This thick.
Yeah.
In it, you will only find 2 Chinese men in it. One is Mao Zedong. The other one was Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
That just tells you how Bruce Lee was incredible and respected. And when everybody talk about Chinese, they will think about Mao Zedong, and that's it. Or Chiang Kai-shek, which was less known actually. But Bruce really took Chinese image into the entire world through his movies.
Yeah.
You know, despite people say that he's so arrogant and all of that, I say, you know what? To be in that level of kung fu, you gotta be fucking arrogant, otherwise you're not gonna make it. Absolutely. I train my kung fu and I still cannot be as good as he is. I try to do all the moves that he does. I can do 80% of it. I walk down the street, people are gonna say, hey, are you related to Bruce? I said, no, but you know, I love Bruce. That's how crazy I was about him too, about his moves.
Yeah.
But all the moves that he did was so original. The way he thinks, you know, his philosophy, original, definitely.
Yeah.
He is the man that opens up the entire world to respect Chinese and the Chinese kung fu.
He brought the world together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he shows the world what kung fu is all about, what taekwondo is all about. Without him, there won't be all these Hong Kong actors coming to Hollywood, that for sure. There would not be, you know what I'm talking.
He was a genuine trailblazer for Asian cinema, for sure.
Bruce Lee was a groundbreaking actor, philosopher, a great man. You know, a great man. He had his problems with women, but the point is, in terms of his art, still the #1 in the world.
Yeah.
Still, in terms of the kung fu.
Did you get to see any of his films at the local cinemas?
Yes, I did. I was very young, you know, when Bruce
Sure.
was already on screen. I adore him, and I went to local theater to see his movies. Yes, I did. You know,
Brilliant.
and he was doing all these crazy things already when I was just very young, because my parents was living in Hong Kong and I was living in New York. But I come back summertime, you know, to spend it with my parents, and then I'll see him all the time. He's always showing his kung fu, his incredible body. He does all these incredible things. One thing that he did, I recall, he tell the host, you know, come over here. Then he tells the host coming so close to him, and he said, I will show you what kung fu is all about, but don't be surprised. I'm not gonna hurt you, okay? And then he go boom like this. He did not even hit him with his hand. He hit him with his shoulder, and the guy flew away, fell on the ground just like that. That's how crazy he is. That's how arrogant he is, you know? And then there was some news that, you know, some boxing guy wanted to challenge him. He said, oh, great. You want to challenge me? Anytime, I'm ready, okay? And he would say, he would talk about it in front of the TV screen. That's how crazy he is.
Yeah.
But if you're not crazy like that, you're not gonna be Bruce Lee.
Yeah, one of a kind, absolute legend, absolute
one
brilliant.
of a kind.
Yeah.
You know, I always say there's a difference between an actor and a star.
Yeah.
The actors are all these wonderful actors. Stars are those who step in front of the screen, do not have to say a word. He is gonna have a star aura around him, and people are gonna look at him and say, what is he gonna do next? Bruce is one of the stars.
And again, I think the fact that everybody around the world just knows him as Bruce. You don't have to say Bruce Lee. You say Bruce, people are going to say, you mean Bruce Lee, don't you? Which is incredible. It speaks volumes. Right. Yeah. He was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely
he is fantastic. An inspirator to me in terms of my kung fu. Later, I'll tell you my inspirator for my acting career. Who is my inspirator?
James, you lived quite a while in New York, didn't you? And you, as you said, you said earlier,
I grew up there.
You did some of the off-Broadway shows, I believe, as well.
Yes.
And you also presumably sort of worked sort of some small-time jobs to pay, presumably, for your tuition in acting. And that led, I think, you then into working with some of the Hong Kong, well, not just the Hong Kong that came later, but with the American greats like Chuck Norris. You were in Invasion
Yes.
USA with him, weren't you?
Yes.
That must
Yes.
have been quite an experience as well.
Yes, that was also a great project. We shot it in Georgia. Yeah, I think it is Georgia, in the swamp actually, because
Yeah.
we were always on the swamp, machine. Amazing. That was a great experience. Georgia is a beautiful city, and the swamp was amazing. Crocodiles crawling all over, and we are sitting on the swamp, through those swamps. It was amazing, totally
How
amazing.
was Chuck Norris? Did you get to meet him, to chat with him?
He's a very down-to-earth kind of a guy. I never expected that he was so down-to-earth. Very down-to-earth, very nice guy. Easy to talk to. A little reserved to himself, but he's a very, very down-to-earth kind of guy.
Good. That's good to hear, isn't it? Again, because I mean, as you know, he appeared in the film with Bruce Lee, and Bruce asked for him to appear on screen and fight him. And I think that Chuck famously said, "Well, but will you allow me to be able to fight against you rather than you just beat me?" And of course, he conceded, although of course he was always going to win for us. But it was a wonderful experience in the Colosseum. And of course, you yourself were in Italy. You were in Milan on the catwalks, weren't you?
Yes,
the first Asian person to be as a male model on the catwalks in Milan. Is that true?
It's not the first Asian, but the first
Chinese gentleman.
Chinese.
Yeah.
Before me, there were a lot of Japanese, because Japanese models were already all over in Milan and in Paris, because Japan, you remember back in the 90s, the economy was amazing.
Yeah.
So all these top European designers' clothing was selling crazy in Japan. Therefore, they had to use Japanese models. But back then, Hong Kong was still not quite not open up yet. And there were never any Chinese models in the catwalk in Europe.
Yeah.
I just finished doing films in Hong Kong, and then I went straight to Japan and starred in a movie which was called Harimau. That's in Japanese, of course. And I was the second lead, playing next to the local lead. And then I did another TV series there as, again, groundbreaking. Again, I was the first Asian American actor to be in a Japanese movie playing leads and in the TV. I did a lot of groundbreaking things like Bruce Lee, but I'm just James. I'm not Bruce. So after that, I will happen to be in Italy with my girlfriend, having fun. And one of my friends was an Italian guy. He knows Armani very well. He said, "James, you're so famous, you're Big Trouble and everything. You ought to be working with Armani." I said, "Well, I don't know him, but if you want to send him my portfolio, here's my portfolio. Yeah, show him. If he's interested, sure, I'm already here." He saw my portfolio, he immediately said, "Please bring James in. I want to talk to him." The amazing thing is, I had all these wonderful luck with things, right?
Sure.
I mean, Armani back then, after the movie with Richard Gere, remember? He did all the costume for Richard Gere's American Gigolo. Yeah. Boom! Armani's name was all over the world. Before that, nobody knew him except in Italy. But after American Gigolo, everybody knows Armani. Everybody model want to work with Armani. So James is there. They say, "Please bring him. We want to talk to him." So he personally suited me, because we had to do fitting and all that. And then he said, "Oh, your feet looks kind of small." I said, "Yes, my feet is 43. I'm not the Western size." It was 8 or 9, and the Western size was like 10, 12. Their feet is 50% bigger than mine. I said, "Well," he said, "Well, there's nothing can fit you." I said, well, what, should I wear my shoes?" He said, No. Try mine. Will you? I said, "Okay, sure." Because he said, "My feet is the same as your size. Try my shoes." The next thing, big headline, because the next day was Armani show, so they put a big headline. Armani used, they call it a Japanese model star, James Pax. He fit his own shoes on James' feet. That was the biggest caption for that day's news. And that's my encounter with Armani. It was wonderful, actually.
How did you enjoy the experience of being in Europe, and how were you received? Were you treated well? Was it a good time?
You know, I was lucky, you know, to have a British father and a Chinese mother. They met in Hong Kong many, many years ago. So I was born with a, you know, pretty okay face, and I was a skinny kid. But because I trained myself into Kung Fu, so I began to gain a lot of muscles. That's why when I was 17 already, I was already doing amateur modeling in New York, you know, anything from milk commercial to Old Spice, yes, you know, shave cream or whatever, Old Spice, I still remember.
It's still
I did two commercial, yeah, I got 2 commercial offer on the same week, wow. You know, to do the milk and to do the Old Spice, and I was the leading man in it. Again, that was groundbreaking. They never used an Asian man for milk commercial or for Old Spice, and again, I did that. That's how I started with my modeling career. I was a model to begin with. Yeah. You know, why at that time? Prior to that, since I was a teenager, I was already doing my Kung Fu. Then when I was 17, I started learning ballet, which nobody knows. Again, my inspirator of ballet was Nureyev, if you remember, the Russian great.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. One time I went to, I can't remember which theater. I saw, first time ever, I went to see a real ballet show, and that was Nureyev. The moment he stepped onto the stage, there was another 50 girls surrounding him. I think it was Swan Lake or something.
Wow.
My eyes couldn't take away from him. Even though there are another 50 girls around him, I said, this is Bruce in ballet shoes.
I was just thinking of Bruce Lee of ballet, yeah.
Exactly. I said, my God, this is Bruce, my inspirator in ballet shoes. I said, I wanted to know what ballet is all about. Next day, I went to the ballet school and started training myself. So I became a ballet dancer. And soon after, I learned jazz in New York. Wow. And so I did the Kung Fu, and then I went straight into ballet. I trained 4 years in ballet. Then I became a guest principal in the Hong Kong Royal Ballet. And I did several back then. MTVs for all these famous stars. I was, again, the only Asian male dancers, you know, for all these MTVs. That was my great experience again in dance. So
you've had an incredible, I mean, from such a young age, James. It was just so fulfilling, so wonderful. You've just achieved so much in a very short period of time, and you're still such a young guy as well. You've done brilliantly well.
You know what? I always tell myself, you know, I said, if Bruce could have done what he had done, I said, James could do maybe half as much, and I'm happy. So in everything I do, whether as a model, whether as a dancer, whether as a Kung Fu artist, whether as a director now, a producer and a screenwriter, I said, I gotta put forth my 300% of my ability and grind my brain juice out to make it happen. Yeah. You know why? Because I'm a very modest man. You know, I watch a lot of TV sometimes. You see a lot of, you know, these unfortunate people in South Africa, the children, or these, you know, people without arms in China, even you see them. You know, one time I was, when I first came to China, I went to a Chinese market and I saw this young man was totally moving. I mean, his arm, he had, you know, I don't know what this disease, his arm was like this. And then he was sitting on top of the shelf, fixing a watch with his toes.
Yeah.
I say, my God, if a man is so disunfortunate and yet he still want to live and survive and do what he can do, we human beings with healthy body and mind should do better. That's why
yeah.
I always do the best I can in whatever I feel that I want to accomplish or to excel on, and also to help others. You know, among all the years I was in Hollywood, I must have helped at least 20 actors. Marc Dacascos, I don't know if you know him. He was my younger brother.
He's brilliant. I know that Leo loves Marc Dacascos. I mean, he's fantastic.
I'm a big fan.
We used to train together. He was my gymnastic teacher because I never did gymnastics. I was a kung fu, and he was also a kung fu man because his father was famous. His father was a famous kung fu guy. He trained in China for a period of a couple of months. So that's where we, bonded together. I know his family very well. And then we train on regular basis, once a week or twice a week. He would teach me tumbling. And that's how close we were. And then when I met him in Los Angeles, while I was doing the Big Trouble. He came and visited me. And then one time I was doing, after that, I was offered to do Nasty Boys.
Yeah.
And I was already kind of a successful Asian actor. And he was struggling. He was wonderful looking young man, such a beautiful face and incredible physique. And he does tumbling, he does all these fights. He was working at the Universal Studio as one of the stuntmen. Universal Studio, they had all these stunt shows, falling off the cliff, diving into the water. He was one of the guys. I said, Mark, I think you ought to think about maybe make yourself as an actor so you can make more money and you have a longer career. Otherwise, if someday you fall off the cliff and you're injured, what happened if you can't work anymore? I said, let me help you. So I tell my producer, I said, you know what, tomorrow there's a scene of, motorcycling. You know what, I'm not so good at it. Can I bring in a stunt guy who can ride a motorcycle for me? They said, sure, you can do whatever you want, whatever makes you feel safe, go ahead. Okay, I said, I got a great guy here. Mark's my brother. So Mark came in and doubled me to ride a motorcycle for me. Then after that, I said, now you can go and apply as a guild member. Unless you're a guild member, you cannot participate in any of these Hollywood TV series or movies. So unless you have gotten a job in a TV or a movie like this, which is studio approved, you will never get into the guild. So because I gave him that first job, he was able to get in the guild, and then his career just multiplied. Of course, he did very well.
That's a fantastic book.
Along with many other Asian actors, that came along the way that I felt I could help. I always help them along, really.
He's a great guy. That's a wonderful story. You touched on Nasty Boys. I know that Leo's dying to ask you about Nasty Boys, and we both want to know more about that. So back to Leo. Yeah,
so you mentioned the Nasty Boys and obviously TV work, and that was it. It was actually an episode of Tour of Duty that obviously I kind of recognise you from as well. This is obviously how we first ended up kind of communicating. But Nasty Boys here in the UK, I don't ever think was actually released as a series. But we did have what used to happen in the UK is they used to package US series as films here, and they used to kind of like put them out as kind of films. So we had Nasty Boys as a kind of a film, and then they had a few Nasty Boys 2, Nasty Boys 3. But obviously it was a series where you were one of the co-leads, but you've done a great many TV shows. As I've mentioned, Tour of Duty, which was an absolutely fantastic role, season 1, episode 2, where you played an NVA doctor. And it's one of my favorite episodes, and one of the kind of like the also, great acting, I think, as well. But obviously you're in martial law, MacGyver, Matlock, loads of kind of like TV roles. And I noticed you had a lot of you're in a lot of episodes with James Hong, obviously, who was also in,
James.
Big Trouble in Little China as well. So it was almost a bit like a little bit of a re-teaming of them. So obviously, tell us a little bit about your TV work, and obviously Nasty Boys, which was, I think, the 13 episodes plus the original kind of TV movie. What were your kind of favourite memories from those sort of TV work?
Well, I went back and did a little research of what I've done 30 years ago. Matlock, I remember a little bit of that. Nasty Boys, definitely a lot more on Nasty Boys. I was able to find a lot of footage, and definitely the one that you just mentioned, that I was playing a Vietnamese doctor, tour of duty. I love that role, actually. You know what? I was surprised that the director wanted me for that role. You know what? I was only 30-something, and that role was 55. But
you look superb in that role. You were fantastic. I watched a clip the other night from Leo. I was reduced to tears when what happened at the end with your character, and you were playing, as you say, an older gentleman with grey hair. You were fantastic in that role, John. It was superb. Loved it.
Well, I'm proud of it. I have to tell you that when I look at it today, I said to myself, James, you really did that? My God, you were a serious actor. But indeed, I was. Like I said, everything I do, I said to myself, you either do the best or don't do it. So, when I was studying to be an actor, I was studying at the actor studio only for a short period of time, because soon after I moved to LA, of course. But I said, I want to be like Marlon Brando. I wanted to be like Robert De Niro, or all these wonderful actors. And that's why when I got that role, I said, I got to change my body, because I had so much muscle. And I was a tall guy, 5'11". I said, I got to make myself look skinny. So if you notice that my whole body was like a hunchback, so that I can make myself look smaller. And then I changed my tone of voice, and hold my whole gesture. Yeah, I really work hard on that role. In acting, we call it a day of character living, a day of living in character. And that's what I did. I spent a whole day in that character, eating, cooking, and all of that, just to get myself into the mold. And that's how I prepare for my roles, just like many
very different role, because it was obviously, it was only for one episode, but it's one of the few episodes that actually focused on a Vietnamese character. And the character that you play, who was a doctor, was obviously a pacifist, because he was a doctor. And one of the things I could have noticed, obviously, it was just a very kind of subtle kind of body acting. And the guy that you played seemed, just from obviously that one episode, like a gentle man, that sort of thing. And there's a scene where there's a kind of a Vietnamese general he orders you to kill the American soldier. Now we, as an English-speaking audience, don't know what he's saying, but obviously your reaction to it just speaks.
That's his intention.
Yeah,
kill that son of a bitch there. Yes, that was definitely very good writing. I have to congratulate the writer on that show. Definitely, character building was amazing. There was only a few scenes, I think only 4 scenes, and yet the bond between the GI and me, was so amazing, just in those 3 or 4 scenes. And then in the end, I got killed. It was definitely tear-jerking for me myself when I watch it again today.
Oh, fantastic. So we'll move on to Nasty Boys, because I haven't seen it in a long time, because obviously I don't think it was released here as a series, but from what I understand, it was actually based on real police. Set in Las Vegas, I believe, like an undercover kind of police series, which was kind of heavy on the action. And obviously, I think it was Jimmy Key was your character, I believe, if I remember rightly. But it was a fun series. Sadly, only lasted the 13 episodes, but could you tell us about your experience on that?
Great experience, great experience. You know, meeting all these young actor and also the leading actor. I cannot remember his name now.
Benjamin Bratt.
The older gentleman. No, not Benjamin Bratt. Benjamin Bratt was in the same class. The guy who played the sergeant, actually, the captain.
Dennis
He's an
Franz.
older actor. Dennis Franz. Yes, he was a beautiful man. He's a very kind man and everything. And it was great memory. Great memory, I have to say. Again, it was innovative, and why they made that series. Dick Wolf, which I have my respect for, it was the producer. He wrote it too. He actually wanted to create a more international series after Miami Vice was so successful. Recall Miami Vice only had 2 characters, one black and one white. So basically, Dick Wolf created 5 characters with different racial backgrounds, which I think was a wonderful idea. And I think my character was actually based on Don Johnson's character and Bruce Lee together. So I'm always dressed in beautiful outfits, you know, and riding a ninja bike, and yet I have to do Bruce Lee's kung fu moves, you know, and scare everybody. It was definitely, again, innovative in terms of concept for a TV series, character-wise. Seize what you keep. That's the whole thing. You know, these cops were able to seize and they keep it, you know. The drug dealers, cars, boats, or whatever, will keep it and then we use it. That was part of the fun, actually. Yes, it was wonderful. Definitely, action was good. The first movie, they call it the pilot. That's how they call it. Usually, the first episode they call it a pilot was 2 hours. Was actually an hour and a half. It was directed by, I cannot remember his name. A feature film director. Actually, it was very, very well done, I have to say. And the promo, you'll be amazed. The promo film was shot by, back then, was just a young film school graduate. I cannot recall his name, but you can help me out. He did the Pearl Harbor, the movie. He directed that. What's his name?
It's not Zack Snyder, was it? Pearl Harbor. Is it Jerry Bruckheimer?
Famous. No, not Cameron.
I'm just trying.
Anyway.
It wasn't Michael Mann, was it?
No, it wasn't Michael Mann.
No.
The guy who did Pearl Harbor. Michael Bay. Yes.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay back then was so young. He just graduated from college, and then he was directing commercials already, not feature film yet. And then he was invited to direct the promo for this. So you see this. He's very skinny and tall. He's like, 60mm camera, and he's the cameraman himself. And I recall that we were running. He said, "Okay, now you're gonna run from left to the right. Okay, just run. All right." And then you see him jerking his camera. He's going ta 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 ta. You know, was really. I mean, he's quite innovative. You could tell that the young man is quite innovative. And then he created the whole promo reel. I think it was like a 1 minute or 2 minute promo reel. But everywhere we go, even when we were just making it, fans came to us, because 5 good-looking guys going everywhere is going to attract a lot of women. So wherever we go, we got loads of women ready to find out who we are, because we were all unknown, unknown, pretty much unknown, actually. I mean, except I did Big Trouble already. And they will all come up and say, "Can you, give me a little autograph?" I recall we went to one of this town, really like middle America, redneck area. And then a whole bunch of girls came up and they said, "James, I love you." I said, who is it? A girl with beautiful body, of course. It comes up to me and say, "James, can I give you a hug, give you a kiss?" I say, "Of course." And then he said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you give me an autograph?" I said, "Sure. Where do you want me to do it? You got a paper somewhere?" He said, "No. Just here's my felt pen. right in front of my chest. Would you? Sure, why not? Piggy-pada.
Excellent.
That was one memory I remember with dealing with these
I
fans.
bet you do.
Loads of fun.
You may have been a pioneer by being the first to do that, James, as well.
I have to say, maybe I wish I have a picture with her, you know, because she was beautiful and full of good energy.
You've also portrayed a very significant historical figure, and I know this is something you are very proud of, and that is the docudrama "The First Emperor." Now, I've yet to see this. I've actually ordered a copy of it, but unfortunately, it didn't arrive before we got a chance to have this chat. But I know you're extremely proud of it, and I have seen a few clips and stuff. Obviously, a major historical figure. So it's quite the kudos, and you know, just tell us a little bit about that.
That again is groundbreaking. By then, I just arrived in China. I actually moved into China in the year of 2000. And Nick Young was the British director. Came up to me and said, you know, we're doing this wonderful project called The First Emperor about Qin Shi Huang, which I know quite well. And, you know, we'd like you to star in it. You know, are you willing to do it? I said, sure, why not? So I came on. He showed me the script and we worked together on the script. Although I was not a great writer, but I contributed a lot of my idea in terms of character building, because that's what I believe in. The character needed to be built. So I suggested a couple of new scenes here and there, and he made the changes. And then we went on to make it happen. They shot it for about 2 months near Beijing. And then they went to Xi'an to do the tomb, you know, the famous terracotta, because that was built by Qin Shi Huang, the emperor himself. I spent most of the time in the Beijing studio, indoor and outdoor. It was definitely groundbreaking. You know why? 40 years ago, I recall there was a movie, which you probably still remember, a movie called Last Emperor.
Yeah.
Directed by a wonderful Italian director. And $20 million budget, it did over $1 billion around the world in terms of the box office. And John Long starred in it. And actually, I was offered to play in that role, one of the role, and I was not available because I was doing another project, which I did not participate. But then soon after I saw that movie, you know, I said to myself, why is it that there is not one Chinese director able to do a Chinese historical figure like the last emperor, Pu Yi, in English? You know, why does it always have to be in Chinese? Chinese is wonderful, but you are only serving the Chinese audience. Only a movie in English that will serve the international audience. And that's why The Last Emperor was so successful. So when Nick came up to me about this project, I said, this is wonderful. This will be groundbreaking, although it's just a docudrama, a smaller budget. But I said, this will be a project that I want to be involved and to make it known to the world that Chinese historical subjects can be done in English after the Last Emperor. So I actually lost 15 pounds for that show. It was a very difficult shoot, summertime, sweaty, heavy costumes, you know, these Chinese costumes. I cannot imagine 1,000 years ago, these Chinese people wearing that kind of clothing and walking around, or even wearing that kind of costume, doing all the fighting. My God, I would never survive, and I couldn't survive. I had headaches, and I had insomnia. Oh my God, I was sick right after that. So it was a very difficult shoot, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. Actually, I've seen a few clips, and obviously it looks like a lot of it was sort of set in desert areas and things like that. So I can imagine it was obviously, you know, fairly sort of uncomfortable. I wonder if you've seen Disney's Mulan. You were talking about the sort of Chinese properties being made by American and having English speaking. That was the recent Disney film Mulan, which was shot in China, but obviously and based on a Chinese figure, but obviously spoken in English. I wonder if you had a chance to see that and what your thoughts are on it.
Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to see Mulan. But I have to tell you, they certainly picked the wrong lady to play that role.
I've heard that
there's
controversy. Yeah,
I had to badmouth any actor, but the fact is, I had the encounter with her a long time ago when I first came to China. They asked me to kind of read with her because I was considered for a Chinese TV series, which I never got the role. Instead, he got the role. She got the role. Back then, she just came back from Los Angeles as a teenager, speak quite okay English. And we were doing the scene and her brain was totally blind, was totally blank, and she was just reading the line. And soon after I follow her career, I really say, yeah, she's got a cute face, but you know what? She really doesn't know what acting is all about. I mean, Hollywood has so many wonderful actresses, you know, Japanese or Chinese, but why do they want to pick a girl from China? I mean, I'm nothing against Chinese, you know. The fact is she's not a good actress to begin with, really. I mean, she has no dynamic in her acting. So many wonderful Hollywood actors, maybe not as famous as her in China, but definitely more famous in Hollywood than her. Why do they want to pick her?
Yeah.
I think she definitely doomed the whole picture. But I can't say that because I never saw it, because I don't even want to saw it, because she was playing the lead in it.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
And I knew it wasn't going to be a good movie to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't know about the story really, you know. I don't know. So.
Well, fair enough. Well, we're going to move on in a minute to some of what your future projects and what you're working on at the moment. But I just want to hand over to Paul to see if he's got any questions about obviously the rest of your work. So, Paul, have you got anything you want to ask?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. Lots to talk about. I think for the general audience that will be following this and enjoying it greatly, just maybe the traditional sort of shorter questions like a favorite director that's influenced you through your career and a favorite film.
I have many favorite films.
Good.
I actually gave some thoughts to it when you sent me the questionnaire first. I am a big fan of black and white era. Films from Jane Eyre to Waterfront, Streetcar Named Desire.
You really are a Marlon Brando fan.
Marlon Brando. I've been a Marlon Brando fan all my life. And some of the James Dean films as well. Yeah. Even the wonderful classic Japanese black and whites by Kurosawa.
Wow, lovely stuff, yeah.
You know, Yojimbo and all of that, and also some other Japanese directors who have done all these wonderful Japanese, you know, samurai movie. I'm a big samurai movie fan, you know, all those black and white ones. I've seen it all. Yeah. So, and they really influenced me a lot in terms of my acting. And when I got into script writing, I really go back and look at these old films and study the lines and the structure of the story and the relationship between the male and female actors or the male and male actors and so on and so forth, you know. So I'm definitely a fan for black and white movies to begin with, but
white cinema is
also just amazing. Yes. And some other movies like The Heat by Robert De Niro and Michael, what's his name?
Michael Mann.
No. Yeah, it was directed by Michael Mann, I think.
Yes. Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. Yes. Val Kilmer, yes, yes.
Yeah.
You know what's so that movie was amazing in terms of script structure, which I'll come back to it. Also, another film I love was a series of three by again Robert De Niro was in it, and it slipped my mind. It's an Italian mafia movie. You will know what I'm talking about.
Godfather film.
Godfather, yes. One,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Yeah.
Amazing. You know why I love these films so much? Because of the story structure, because the way that the writer, you know, relates to all these characters, big or small, everybody. And the bigger characters have a lot of scenes, smaller characters, maybe only one scene here, one scene there, and yet you see the beginning and then you see the result and how they affected everybody else's life. It's really a mirror of people's life, you know, such as that one. It's about the mafia's world and yet how the business affecting their personal life, and that's what makes it so real. And the acting was just amazing. You know, whether you are just the busboy or you are the dancer or you are the leading character or you are, you know, all the brothers, they played amazingly. Every brother in it played amazingly, or even just these little mafia characters getting their head chopped off or whatever. Amazing. It's a perfect movie in my mind. In terms of color movie wise, that is definitely a classic. And then if I go to The Heat, again, a classic. Why? Even Val Kilmer's character, remember, his character was not very big, but the writer was able to, you know, have the male and female, the male lead, two male lead, and then their girlfriend and the wives and the children, and plus Val Kilmer has his own family, and how robbing a bank, right, affected everybody's life, and yet everybody died in the end. Only the two guys trying to, you know, psych each other out. Again, the restaurant scene was classic, and then chasing in the airport was amazing.
That shootout sequence went on for about 20 minutes, and it was just astonishing, wasn't it?
Yeah, astonishing at every level, especially the scene when they exited the bank and they were running on the street, and the cops were chasing them with guns.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the way they recorded it, the sound wise, it was like bomb, bomb. It makes you feel like you're right there.
Yeah.
You know, you're right there. You're one of the pedestrians. Where am I going to run? It's so real. So that's what I really have great respect for Hollywood movie making. When they make a movie like that,
when they do it right, they do it well. Michael Mann
well.
actually, almost like with your series Nasty Boys, prior to doing Heat, he was planning to do a TV show, and it was called LA Takedown. And LA Takedown was a TV film, and it is a precursor to Heat. I don't know if you've seen LA Takedown, but I think you'd enjoy that very much as well. Very similar.
I will go back and find it.
Look out for. Yeah. But I'm delighted to hear you say about Kurosawa. I think he's just excellent. And of course, Toshiro Mifune, who worked with him on, I think, like 16 films.
Yes.
To see, again, you do like a Toshiro Mifune type role, Seven Samurai, would be epic. It would
Amazing.
Be fantastic. Could I ask you about some of the films as well? You did, I think it was Kinjite with Charles Bronson.
Yes.
Do you remember working with Charles?
Charles, again, a gentleman, a very grounded gentleman. I think he just lost his wife when he did this film, I think, or his wife was in hospital. I cannot remember, but he didn't talk much. But you could just tell from the way he talks to you and his eyes. He has a very kind eyes, you know. He always plays this tough guy, but you look into this man's eyes, you say, this guy is a very kind man.
Good. That's good.
That's the image he gave me. He's a kind man.
Good.
You know.
Good.
Yeah. He's a very nice guy, easy to work with, Yeah.
Excellent. That's really good to hear, actually, because he was a big Hollywood star, and as you say, the difference between an actor and a star, that's really pleasing to hear. also, I know that I think from when we just briefly chatted, you mentioned about Bolo Young. Of course, again, another connection to Bruce Lee, and you appeared with him in the film Shoot Fighter. How was that experience for you, working with Bolo?
Oh, Bolo definitely is a character. Bolo is definitely a character. He thinks he's still back in the 80s with Bruce Lee. So you know what I'm saying.
It's larger than life, isn't it?
Yes, he's a character. I was lucky I didn't have to do any fighting. I was just in my nice suit, you know, making comments here and there. But yeah, Bolo was interesting. You know, he definitely has a good physique. He had a great start with Bruce. I think he was in one of them, the Bruce Lee movie. And then he did, because of his physique, he was able to do all these movies, you know.
He
Not
worked
so
with
much of his
Jean-Claude
kung
Van Damme,
fu.
didn't he? Wow.
Yeah, he did, I recall. But he's definitely not a kung fu man. He's just,
Okay.
but his
More power,
physique
more
was
power than the
more
style.
of the look. His look is good.
Yes, it
It's
is.
right for that
Right.
era. For that era, you know. Like I said, Bruce went away. Jackie Chan was still struggling in Hong Kong, you know, becoming a star, and yet nobody is around. So Van Damme was there. Bolo Young worked with Bruce, so they brought him on. Good for him.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. Could I ask you about some of your Hong Kong productions as well? You made a film called Love Among the Triad with the great Simon Yan. How was it working with Simon Yan?
Yeah. Simon and I had a pretty good relationship, actually.
Good.
One of the things I recall, if I'm not wrong, was that Simon came up to me one day. He said, "James, I saw this Armani's fashion show and the promo reel in Armani shop. Was that you on the runway?" I said, "Hey, yes, Simon, that was me. That was, you know, just a couple of years ago when I was in Europe." He said, "How did you get that part?" I said, "Well, you know, I was already doing film in Japan. They knew my name, so they brought me on." He said, "James, can you introduce me to Armani? I want to be on that show." How did you get in there? Nobody in Hong Kong or Taiwan can go to Europe, and you just did it like that. I said, "Yeah, well, you know, they invited me. What can I say, right?" That's one thing I remember. But Simon is a good guy. You know, he started out with TVB. He's a hardworking guy, I have to tell you. He's never stopped working. He's a PR man. He knows how to talk. He knows how to make you comfortable. That's why so many directors use him. You know, I was an outsider to Hong Kong, although my parents lived in Hong Kong for many years. They did their business there, but I was an outsider because I basically, you know, lived in New York. But when I entered the Hong Kong scene after Hollywood, I was considered an outsider, and I see myself as an outsider, although my Chinese Cantonese was very good. My first film was an unknown one. It's called I Want to Escape, okay, with a famous Hong Kong actor. We did quite well on that film. That was actually shot in China. And the second film was the big one, the Heroic Trio, if you know that movie, with three beautiful Chinese ladies. Yeah.
Love that film.
Very big movie, big budget and big cast. And because of Michelle, of course, the DVDs sold all over the world. And I played his boyfriend, the scientist, you know, that tried to help her and died in her arm. And Anthony Wong, you mentioned, was actually in the movie as well.
He was in the sequel, I think. Not so sure whether he was in with you.
I think he was in the first one. He was in the first one that I was always also in. He was the bad guy. He got kept in the cage, I remember.
I've forgotten him, but I remember you in the film, and it's one of my favorite films. Johnny To directed. You were excellent. The girls were lovely. It's a wonderful film. Anybody's not seen Heroic Trio, and the theme tune. Do you remember the theme tune for it? The whistling tune.
Something I cannot recall much of.
It stays in your head and you can't get it out in a good way. It's so
really
good.
Oh, yeah. I have to listen to it. Yeah. I have to.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed your performance in it. I love that film.
That was again innovative because very few Hong Kong movies had heroines, and they had three heroines, you know. and we were just a supporting actor. All the guys were supporting actor in it.
They were
Yeah,
so
definitely.
good, the leading ladies, that all not just so attractive, but extremely agile. I mean, Michelle Yeoh, she
Yeah.
actually, a young Michelle Yeoh would have been
Yes.
superb for the live action Mulan. I think should have been an excellent choice.
Well, to tell you a bit about Michelle, who was my
Yeah,
longtime
you-
friend, you know, she actually, you know why she's so agile? Is because she was a dancer to begin with. She studied dancing in the UK, I don't know which school, had a degree in dance. Then he
okay.
went back home to his hometown in Malaysia. Then he went to, he joined a beauty contest. I think he won the first place in one of the beauty contests. Then people said, "You come to Hong Kong, maybe we can get you a job." So she went to Hong Kong, and immediately she landed a couple of roles playing the lady cop. That's how she became famous.
It was Michelle Khan back then, wasn't she, of course, as well? Rather than
Yeah,
Michelle Yeoh, it was Michelle Khan, yeah.
yeah. Michelle definitely did very well in Hong Kong because of her agility, of her dance ability. She transformed dance ability into the kung fu ability easily.
Yeah, that's excellent story to know. I mean, she is fantastic, absolutely. And another connection to the Hong Kong cinema as well. Sammo Hung, of course, you worked with on Martial Law. How was that for you? That must have been an incredible experience working with Sammo Hung, the great Sammo Hung.
Well,
Oh
my
no,
ultimate,
is
my
he not so
ultimate
great?
is definitely Bruce Lee. Bruce, nobody
Oh,
else.
sure, without question.
But
But
Samo, I think, no, I don't want to comment too much about Samo. Sorry.
that's okay. That's a shame.
I work with him. You know, I got to know, I know his wife a little bit, but you know, no, he's not my favorite
Different type
character.
of stuff.
I'm being
Yeah,
very straightforward.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's okay. Are there any other memories from the Japanese and Hong Kong film studios and working on sets that bring back good memories for you?
It probably would take me a few days to go back to
Right.
think about that.
How
But
was the
one,
between
but
filmmaking in Hong Kong and America for you, though? Which did you
oh
prefer?
yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Definitely Hollywood.
Yeah.
Nothing like working in Hollywood. You know why? Because they have this incredible union. They call it the Guild.
Yeah.
They really give respect to everyone in the business, whether you are a extra or whether you are a electrician or whether you're a cameraman or whether you're an actor. Everybody is well treated, well respected. We have lunch. There's a big truck comes in with lunch and the table spread out to 3 tables of food and you can have anything you want. You know, we used to say, instead of sitting at home, I'd rather go work as an extra so at least I can get a good lunch. And that
Catering.
is the truth. Catering was amazing. That's
Excellent.
one thing. When you are a leading actor or you are a guest star, you get your own trailer. Not the entire trailer, but you get your own little room. But still, enough room to turn around, your private bathroom, and you can hang up your coat.
Yeah.
Hong Kong, you sit on the floor and have your lunchbox.
Yeah.
Because
Totally
Hong Kong budget cannot compare with Hollywood. Okay? They don't have a chair for you. When you are a star, you have your own chair with James Pax's name on the back of the chair. In Hong Kong, you bring your own chair or you sit on the floor. But you know what? It's different, but I still have a lot of fun working in Hong Kong, I must say. You know,
Yeah, good.
it's a different way of making movies. Very crude, but very original in its own way, I have to say. And Hong Kong has a lot of wonderful actors, I must say. You know what? TVB, the TV station really trained these actors well. Every day they are playing in the TV series and shooting TV series. So when they get on the movie, they gotta be good.
Yeah.
Very good actors. Many. I work with many good actors there.
Fantastic. Along with yourself, I do have to ask about 2 of my other favourites, being Chow Yun-fat and John Woo. Do you have any thoughts on either of the 2? Have you met either of the 2?
I never met with Cho, but I did know John a bit. You know why? In '97, you know, I went back to Hollywood. I started doing concert in Las Vegas for MGM Grand and Rio Casino. I became a concert producer for audience up to 10,000 people. I brought in the famous Hong Kong and Taiwan superstars.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had this idea. You recall, I'm not so sure if they still have the show. They had the show back in the 80s called Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still on right now. Huge. Entertainment Tonight is sold all over the world, especially in Europe and Latin America, you know, Canada and US. And they had a team of probably 60 people so that they can keep up with what's happening in Hollywood, right? They have 3 teams shooting all these premieres and then chase after the actors, doing personal interviews and all of that. But you know what? Back then, there was not one show in Asia, not even from the very wealthy Japan, that there's one Japanese team shooting that type of show in Hollywood. So I had this crazy idea. I said, James, why don't you do it? I said, sure, why not? So simple. I just called them up. They have this very famous guild, because unless you are approved by the guild, you cannot go and shoot them. They're not going to let you get on the red carpet. So everything needs to be pre-approved. So what I did was I put together my resume, and I put together a synopsis of what I wanted to do and the territory that I want to air. I said, Asian channels all over America and North America, plus 3 billion people audience in Asia.
Yeah.
And after they read my resume, they said, wow, James, you want to do this? Of course, come on. You know, bring your team. We love to have you, because we don't have anybody from Asia on the red carpet. So I did that. I organized a team, only 4 people. And then I shot it. The reason I brought this up is because one of the most memorable person that I interviewed, Morgan
Freeman, terrific actor. Yeah.
my inspirator, besides Bruce. Let me tell you why. After I was approved by the guild and I was ready to shoot, I was already went to the red carpet and did some of the interviews. You know, they come through you. You are just among another 25 teams, and I'm the only Asian face there. The star comes walking down. You have 30 seconds. You either catch him, her, or she's gonna go to the next one. So immediately I have to stop them. I have to give them a brief description. I said, I'm from Asia. We have 3 billion people wanted to see you. Immediately they stop in front of me. So I sold my show and everybody talked to me. But I need something a little more special, because that is only 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there of that star. And then you have to, you know, wide cut of the show. And then you cut some of these promo videos, you know, to make the show look good.
Yeah.
But my show is 30 minutes. I gotta have somebody that can give me a 1-hour interview like now, so that I can edit it into something special and say, yeah, this is incredible. So lo and behold, I used to be a Gold's Gym, you know, person. I belong to the Gold's Gym. Gold's Gym is famous in Hollywood because a lot of movie stars go there. Yeah. It was cheap. Each year I only pay like $200 and I can go anytime I want. So a lot of real, you know, pump guys, they go there. It was in a good location. And one day I went there, Morgan is right in front of me, next to me. So I went out. I just had this wild idea. I said, well, maybe he will come on my show. I don't know. Let me talk to him. I just introduced myself. He said, yeah, I know Big Trouble in Little China. Great to meet you, James. What can I do for you? I said, you know what? I'm doing this show, you know, for Asian audience. It's called LA. What's happening? He said, oh, that's a great name. So what do you want me to do? You know what? I like to do a very lengthy and special interview on you, so that I can show it to promote you in Asia, because in Asia, there are 3 to 5 billion audience that knows you, but never really get to hear you about your career and all of that. He said, I'd love to do it. You know what? Here's my number. You call my assistant and we can arrange it in the next few weeks because right now I'm on hiatus. I'm not doing anything. Oh my God. I was happy. Immediately I call up Four Seasons Hotel. I say, you know what? I got Morgan Freeman, want to do my show and I need a place to do it. Would you please, provide one of your room so that we can do it in a nice setting? They sponsored it. Four Seasons was very kind. Said, oh, no problem. We'll give you this wonderful room. 2 hours, no problem. And I'll give you some free hors d'oeuvres and tea and all of that. So was sponsored by Four Seasons. I brought in my team. My team was very little. Was definitely not Entertainment Tonight. They'll have a 10 people team. We only had 3. Myself was a director. I was a host, and I was a producer, and I only had a cameraman and an assistant from Taiwan who doesn't even speak a word of English. So I had to do everything for myself, and that's my team. 3 people team, and I shot it, and I had a 45 minutes segment every week.
Wow.
That's how I learned the business. But let me go back to Morgan. This is classic. I had great respect for Morgan, because before you never knew much about Morgan's work. You never heard of his name until he did Driving Miss Daisy. You recall?
Robin Hood and what have you,
yeah. Wonderful movie, Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
And then after that, his career just bloomed. He did with Brad Pitt, what's that movie? Seven. Then his name was like incredible. His career just flew. So after a lengthy 45 minutes interview, which he was very frank, he said, you know what, James, I used to be an English teacher on TV, on one of these educational channels. And I did it for 8 years, And if I did not kept up, or I did not, if I give up my acting, I would not be sitting here with you. And then I said, well, tell me the story. He said, I was doing this 8-year contract for this cable channel as an English teacher. I said, oh yeah, now I remember. Oh yeah, that's you? He said, that was me. He said, then one day I was offered to play a little play, off-Broadway play called Miss Daisy. So we did that in New York. And we did, small theater, 300 people. And then it was successful. We won the Gobi Award. And then we were offered, I think he said $1 million or $2 million budget to make a movie out of it. Yeah, and then I played in the movie version. And after that, it was history. That's why you are interviewing me today, because I did not give up my acting. And I was not successful. And I was a poor actor all my life until I passed 50 years old. That's when my career bloomed and I could be here, sitting here talking to you.
That's a great segue into just letting us know what you've got coming up and what we can expect to see you in.
Oh, well, during my 15, 20 years kind of living in Asia here, I was, besides doing all these things, I came across a news on the internet because a Hollywood friend told me that, do you know that there's a Chinese lady pirate? I said, no, you're kidding me. I mean, I only heard about, the English pirates and all of that. I never heard about a Chinese pirate. He said, yes, there is. And she is incredible. You have to find out about her. So I went on the internet, I did a little research. Oh my God, there's already book written about her and things like that. And so, after I looked her information up, I said, she's such an incredible character. Apparently, during the 1800s, there is a group of pirates with 1,000 junks and 80,000 soldiers working in this called Red Flag Fleet.
Yeah.
And she was a prostitute working in the brothel in Guangdong. They married the fleet lord, Zheng Yi, and then became the queen of the pirate group that controlled the entire fleet. And they had a 7 days sea battle with a joint navy of Britain, China, and Portugal. And the Chinese fleet defeated the joint fleet and destroyed 80-something ships. And after I read the story, I said, my God, how come nobody make a movie out of it? You know,
Yeah.
Is it because it's Asian? You know, I mean, Pirates of Caribbean has been made so many times, you know, let me give it a try. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I sat down and grind my brains out. And I wrote 3 episodes of it, of 90-minute movies. And hopefully next year, 2021 or 22, I will hopefully get it done and get it made.
That sounds fantastic.
I am so excited for that. Please tell me that Morgan Freeman's going to have a part in it.
Yeah, Morgan, well, I would love to put him in it. But the last motto he told me was, never give up, James, because the minute you give up, you will not succeed. If you never give up, there's always a chance you will succeed.
Very wise words.
That's one motto I remember clearly, and I follows it. That's why at my age, I'm writing away my script. Hopefully I will get it made.
I really, really hope so. I wish you every success with that. That
Thank
just
you.
sounds superb. I really look forward to that.
Thank you, really, both Leo
It's
and Paul.
absolutely my pleasure. It's been a pleasure chatting to you today. We originally put this about half an hour. It's been an hour.
Really? See, time flies.
It does. It's just, oh, wow. And I'm sure we could film for another hour and a half. But and obviously, we'll follow up with the progress of obviously the. I mean, have you thought of a title? What it might be? This kind of pirate.
Yes, the working title is Pirate Warriors of South China Sea.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure. I've no doubt that we will see it, and obviously we'll follow up with that.
And just to give it a heads up, all my favorite action movies, parts and pieces, and characters will all be in this 3-part series, which will include Japanese samurais, Chinese kung fu, Indonesian silat, and so on and so on and so on. So it will be a colossal of all international martial arts in it, played by Hollywood and Chinese actors and superstars.
James, is there a last message you'd like to give to fans and action fans around the world that look forward to seeing you again, both in front and behind the camera? Do you have a word for them?
I would like to transcend what Morgan gave me. Never give up.
That's brilliant. That's a wonderful way.
Not even during this COVID.
Absolutely.
And I also would like to say, COVID is not China COVID. Trump was not right to say that.
Yeah.
It's an obstacle that the entire world have to encounter, have to learn a lesson from, and we never give up.
Yeah.
To join hands together to get through this terrible period so that we can all bloom together soon.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, James? Do you have like a Twitter or any kind of social media that you'd like to kind of like, if anyone wants to kind of follow you, or I know you have a YouTube channel as well. Is there where can people find you?
I do have a Twitter, right, Jenny? I have a Twitter. I think what is under James Pax? No?
I'll
My
leave
wife
the
do
link in
this
the
for me.
description box where people can kind of find you. Obviously,
On Facebook, I'm very easily found on Facebook. You know, some of my fans, they chat with me from time to time, and I'm very, very responsible person. Whoever sends me a message, I always send back and say hello.
fantastic. I'll leave links in the description for anyone who wants to obviously follow James. And obviously, we wish you all the best, James. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
I think
Thank
life
you.
will strike
Very
again
soon.
for sure. James Goy, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Paul and Leo.
Take care.
Cheers.